Hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us today with Dr. John Townsend. I've been looking forward to this call for a very long time. If you know me, many of you do, you know that I'm a fan of Dr. Townsend's work and have benefited greatly from especially the two resources I'll just go ahead and say that I refer to the most. One is People Fuel, one of his New York Times bestsellers, and the other one that he wrote with Dr. Henry Cloud is Boundaries. So many of you guys hopefully have read some of that or aware of some of that work, but they have been two resources for me personally and for our family that we lean into and in our leadership work as well. So Dr. Townsend, if you don't know, is the author of 30 different books, 10 million copies sold. So we've got a lot of reading to do and catching up. But Dr. Townsend, thank you so much for being here with us and joining us on this call. Whoops, I think I muted you.
Sorry about that.
There you go. That's all right. That was my fault.
All I was saying was, thanks, Shad. Glad to be here.
Yeah, honored to have you. I'm tempted to change the overall focus of our conversation to talk more about the Bandits and your family band. I did find some recordings of that online, so we may have to play some of that and share some of those clips a little later.
Well, if you like music that's kind of loud and not too structured, we're fine.
Sounds perfect. Well, I know our time is going to go fast. So specifically, I wanted you to spend some time diving into your work in People Fuel and the relational nutrients in my own journey personally and in my relationship with other leaders. Being in need, having legitimate needs is something that makes people pretty uncomfortable most of the time. And it's something that we go through a lot of emotional gymnastics to avoid. So why don't you tell us how you came about the relational nutrients and kind of what brought this work to a head and why you felt like People Fuel in particular was necessary. And I will also add, if you guys have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat for us. We'll try to make time for that at the end. My partner here, Luke Herman, is going to be monitoring those. So if you have a question you want to ask, feel free to put that in the chat. But yeah, Dr. Townsend, how did this come to be?
Well, it actually started with folks like your audience here. Hi, everybody, because a lot of the work I do is with high-performing leaders, corporations, family-owned businesses, self-owned businesses. And when I work with them, one thing I found out is that they had a lot of good things going for them. Intelligent, great values, good vision and mission, good strategies, and good, teams and this sort of thing. But there was also the part of them that would look at that as the task part, but I found in the people part, sometimes they ended up kind of finding energy problems. They found mood problems. They found focus problems and creativity problems. Now, if you're a leader, been a leader more than 5 minutes, you know that energy is a big deal. If you don't have it, you got a problem. Mood, up or down mood, when the mood's kind of low and you're kind of cranky, that's a problem. Focus when you can't really stay on the job, on the task, and creativity, which everybody needs these days. Those are issues. So I started looking into what is it about some leaders that had those and some didn't. And a big thing I found out was that they were basically out of touch with their needs. And like you said, Shad, leaders don't, here's how leaders like the word need. I love to meet their needs, my team, my family, the people I'm developing. I love to meet their needs. Mine, oops, that feels selfish. It feels high maintenance. It feels like something must be wrong with me. And so I'm always having to work with that. So what I did is I designed a way to look at this as nutrients, because leaders don't mind nutrients. I mean, we all are trying to be in shape these days and not eat too much fat and, take our multiple vitamins and all that. We're all doing that, right? Those are bionutrients. And I thought, well, we've also got relational nutrients that you've got to have to be creative, great mood, focused well, and also have energy. And so instead of like iron, now, if you don't have enough iron, what happens? Well, you get anemia, right? Your system says my blood system's in trouble. If you don't have enough calcium, you got bone problems. And so there's a deficit in your bionutrients. Well, I designed a model of what are the 4 categories of the relational nutrients we need and what they mean. I'll go into those, but here's the point. If you are in deficit on your relational nutrients, that's when creativity, mood, energy, and focus go away. If you've got enough, you're fine. But they're not transferred by a pill. I take my supplements. I don't have a supplement with me right now. And you don't take it like that. They are delivered in the form of a conversation with somebody who has something to offer you, a friend, a buddy, a mentor, a great spouse, whoever. And when they're transferred in the conversation, that could be text, that can be email, it can be Zoom, it could be face-to-face, then your mental system, just like your blood system, with the bionutrients, your mental system takes them in, digests them, metabolizes them, and everything goes fine. So that's the concept, is where I got it from, was bionutrients. So should we just throw that up on I think you said you could share that, Shad?
I can share that
quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the correlation to energy, because I think what we're recognizing is when we don't get them, we're going to experience the fade of that energy in the absence of legitimate needs being met in legitimate ways. So really feeding ourselves, a beautiful concept. But can everybody see that? Is that up there?
Okay. These are all in my book, People Fuel. And actually, you can get these online in my website for free and download it and that sort of thing. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing because that feels like a lot of information as I'm looking at it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, you see the black horizontal rectangles? I'm just going to go through those 4, and you can look at the others later. There are 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I want to spell those out for you. The first quadrant is to be present. Sometimes, and by the way, if you're a leader, I want you to think about it not only for the people you're leading, but for yourself, because you can't give what you don't possess. You can't give out of an empty cup. There's a physics here. And so think about them, the people you're developing, your team, your family, but also think about you. And I want you to be a little selfish today on this call. Mm-hmm. So first, we need to have people be present with us. That means they need to accept us, tune into us, validate us, and be present mainly means shut up and listen. Now, we leaders, we love to talk. We have all these nuggets, but sometimes we've got to learn to just listen and identify with people and say, that must be hard. Tell me more about it. It's not a leader strength. Most of the high performers I work on have to work a lot on quadrant 1 because they want to get the answer right now and move on. I'm sorry. Sometimes a person just needs quadrant 1. Quadrant 2, convey the good, is basically about, now you can talk, but it's also encourage someone. Ken Blanchard wrote a great book, 1 Minute Manager, how you do this. And when some people kind of need you to be their little Prozac, their little Red Bull, and just say, notice they're doing something great. And then they feel better. Like, oh, my boss just noticed I did a good job on the project, just came up to me and said that out of the blue. That's conveying the good. The third one is provide reality. And this is when we go into, sometimes we need information from somebody. You kind of need someone to be your Yoda, your Gandalf, your wise person, and say, here's a better idea, or maybe this is happening because of this. I love Simon Sinek's TED Talk, The Power of Why, where he transformed Toyota by asking why at 4 levels. That would be providing reality. We found out the insights that were going on at a deeper level. And the fourth one is to call to action. And a call to action means, this isn't just about sitting around looking at your navel. This is about running a business. This is about running a company. This is about high-performing people. You've got to have some advice, or here's the next step. Here's the development. Here's where we're going with it. So that's the 30,000 view picture of the 4. But you've got to remember it. You've got to receive these as well as give these. Chad, can I tell you a story about this?
Yeah, please.
Let's talk about quadrant 1 for a second. This is the one that most leaders kind of choke on. Like, I just feel selfish. Well, my wife and I, when the kids were small, we would go on vacation with other families. And hung out and, just, sometimes it's good to have that family where everybody likes everybody. I mean, the kids like each other, the parents like each other. There aren't that many where everybody totally loves everybody. So we had a couple of these families. So we went with one of them to a vacation, having a great time. But one of the daughters comes up to me on the other side and she says, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." I mean, I'd known her from birth. She says, "I'm having a hard time." And I said, "Let's talk." She says, "I am getting ready to graduate with a master's degree, no, with a bachelor's degree in communication. I got no job." I said, "Yeah, it's a bachelor's degree in communication. That's hard to get a gig." I said, "I'm sorry." She says, "Well, that's not my only problem." I said, "Okay, what else?" She says, "Spencer and I broke up." And I went, "Not Spencer. We loved Spencer. We had him to dinner. We thought he was the perfect guy for you. We thought you guys were going to make." And she said, I don't want to go into it, but it broke my heart and I'm a mess." I said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "That's not all." I said, "What else?" She says, "I don't have any faith anymore." And I come from a Christian perspective, and so does her family. And I said, "What happened?" She says, "Well, I'm with 40,000 other kids at my big university. And, we talk about a lot of stuff. And I'm just not sure if the faith that my family had is what I had." So I said, "You got three big things going on." She says, "Yeah, I'm sad and lonely and confused. And I'm having a hard time." I said, "Okay, I get it. What can I do?" I thought maybe she wanted some wise advice or whatever I had. She said, "You can fix my mother." I went, "Well, how do we get from all these problems in life to fixing your mother?" She goes, "Well, let me tell you." She says, "I go to my mom, who's one of my best friends, my John's best friend." She says, "And I tell her about, I'm so scared about a job and I miss Spencer. I don't know about faith." And my mother says to me, "Honey, look at me. You're smart. You're really resourceful, and you're a winner. You're smart, resourceful, winner. Feel better." And I said, "That's kind of lame." She goes, "Well, tell me about it." It's lame. I said, "What do you do when she says that?" She says, "I just blow her off." I said, "Okay, it's not a bad strategy." I said, "So how about you and your dad?" "Oh, Dad and I talk all the time." I said, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" "Talk to her and fix her." I said, "Well, okay. Hey, by the way, I was on vacation, but if you love somebody." I take her out to the backyard where the swing is. And I take the mom. I said, "Your daughter's kind of in trouble." And she goes, "I know." I said, "She's got no job. Her heart's broken. She doesn't know about faith." She said, "I know, it's awful." I thought, well, we're getting somewhere. She's not in denial. And her mom's a great leader. So I knew she was listening. I said, and she tells me she comes to you. She goes, "Yes, I know, she comes to me." And I said, "She tells me when she's upset and overwhelmed that you tell her she's smart, resourceful, and a winner." She goes, "I know, I do that." And I said, "She tells me it's not working." She goes, "I know, it's not working." Then she goes, "Fix my daughter." And then I go, "Okay, what am I supposed to fix?" She goes, "Well, you're a psychologist, you're a shrink guy. And I have these gifts of encouragement and wisdom. And so I just want to give her these nuggets of like being strong and resourceful and pep her up. I want to tell her the good stuff. And she's not getting it. So can you like maybe cut her head open with a suture and open up the skull and put my nuggets of love and wisdom in here and then sew her back up? Can you do that?" I said, "It really doesn't happen that way." She goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, let me tell you how it works. Your daughter fell down a well. She fell down a 40-foot well, metaphorically speaking, a well of deep financial anxiety and career anxiety and a broken heart and faith issues, faith crisis. And she's overwhelmed. She's in trouble. And she didn't know what to do. And you love her and you're a leader and you're a mom. And so you look down on that well and you go, I love my daughter. And so what you do is when see from your vantage point, you're at the top and your daughter's 40 feet down in the darkness and you look at her and where you are, the sun is shining and, it's 82 degrees Celsius. I mean, the Fahrenheit and it's not too much humidity and the clouds are going on. You're kind of okay. And so you look down and you go, honey, you're smart and resourceful and a winner. Come on up, like Bob Barker used to do in the old days. Come on up. She ignores you. And she said, what am I supposed to do? I said, well, let me tell you what. Here's what your husband does, who's also a very good friend of mine. When he goes to the well and sees her falling in there, overwhelmed with all these struggles and needs and all this, and he loves her like you love her, he jumps into the well, does a somersault, right? Lands at the bottom of the well and picks up y'all's daughter and he holds her. And he starts walking around the well and he says, it's really dark. It's overwhelming. It's sad. There aren't any great answers right now, but I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. And I'll have you until you're ready to get out. And that's why she listens to you, to him, and not to you. Now, my friend is no fool. She goes, you're telling me to jump in the well. I said, I am. You're a leader. You're a mother. We have to do that with everybody we have to take care of. She goes, it's so hard for me. I'm a positive person. I've got great wisdom. I've got all the encouragement. I said, you got those great things, but you've got them in reverse. Let me tell you what the neuroscience, which because what I study is leadership neuroscience. It says, you've got to earn the right for your truth to be heard. You've got to earn the right for your positivity and your encouragement to be heard. And the only way you can earn it is jumping in the well and what psychologists call attuning. Attune is a form of empathy. You've got to let them know that you get how bad it is for them, or you haven't earned the right to listen. And it sounds like want, like the Charlie Brown movies, and the parents are always going, want. That's all you're doing. Right. You're your wonderful nuggets is want. She goes, that's so hard for me. I said, I know. It's a new skill. You got to learn it. So she's a smart person. Vacation was over. By that way, I was kind of tired by my end of my vacation too, quite frankly.
You worked hard.
I worked hard.
It's not like much of a vacation.
6 weeks later, I see him. The daughter says, Mom and I are fine. We're talking all the time. And I went to Mom. I said, how are you doing? She goes, it's a new skill, but I'm learning how to get in the well. Now, I have given this talk over 100 times to various leadership groups around the country. And I can know what 90% of us in this room, in this Zoom room, are thinking right now, because I'm the same way. We're all thinking, I suck at the well. I'm no good at it. I want to give advice, solve the problem, be positive, take the hill. There's a mission out there, there's vision out, and I get that. I'm the same way. But what you're saying to yourself is also, I probably need that skill. Maybe that's why I'm not being heard like I need to. People aren't responding like I need. And maybe that's why I don't have the energy I need. So let me change your question from, how do I get better at that? I'm going to give you 7 words. And these 7 words are your own question. And this question is more important for you as a leader than the first question of how do I do this? More important. So take that first question, put it on the parking lot. You'll get to it later. It's a good question. Here's the better question for today. Here it is. Who am I inviting to my well? Who am I inviting to my well? Because you have a well and I have a well. We get discouraged. We get upset. We get frustrated. We get sad. We feel helpless. We got these conundrums in our life. We get empty. We lose energy. And who are we inviting? And if the only person you're inviting to your well is your spouse or your Labrador Retriever, Max, you got a problem. Because your spouse is going to be overwhelmed. Because sometimes the CEO will say, oh, it's my spouse. They know all my hurts and hangups and all that. And I'll go, yeah, and your spouse is tired too. And then the spouse walks in the room and says,
right.
Listen to this guy. You need some other things. And the thing about Max, the Labrador Retriever, I'm a dog guy too, but why does Max lick you when you're down? Because he's genetically engineered that he doesn't eat unless he licks you when you're down. He knows that. So that's kind of a gimme. You need, and I talk about this in the book, you need 3 to 10 people that you can get those needs met that I just said. If you can get those needs met from the right people, the acceptance you need, the encouragement you need, the getting in the well that you need, you can give it to other people. Then you'll fix your family, you'll fix your business, you'll optimize everything. That's the kind of bottom line of the idea of relational nutrients. Is who am I going to ask to my well? And leaders will tell me, Shad, they'll go, I don't want to be the needy person. That sounds selfish. And
right.
I found, let's straighten this out. When your car gives out of gas and you go to a Chevron station or wherever you go, do you say, my car is so selfish, so self-centered. It should run on nothing because, no, that's silly. The car needs gas and you need relational nutrients, just like your body needs bionutrients. So this is a weird phrase, but I'm going to give it to you guys because it's so helpful to me. You need to need. You need to need, not just somebody to, give you a cup of sugar or $10. You need to need somebody to listen and be there for you. And you're built that way. The neuropsych says you're built that way. So if you're not needing or you feel selfish about it, you got to get over that and realize we're all the same way. And the most successful people, they know how to receive and they know how to give. And that's how it works.
Yeah. Practicing that too in the work context. I love the story and the example you gave of your friends on your vacation. Practicing that in the work context and helping people, so there's a dynamic at play of taking responsibility for my own needs. Like I am responsible for getting my legitimate needs met in legitimate ways, and partly helping other people take responsibility for theirs as well. Mm-hmm. So in the context of leadership, can you talk a little bit about how that practice of presence and maybe this ties into some boundaries too, right? Because you're kind of helping people exercise their own responsibility and also being with them in their needs, but not enabling them and becoming overly dependent on you to do it for them. So how do you navigate that dynamic?
Yeah. Number one, you've got to experience it for yourself because you don't know how to get it otherwise. So you've got to find a few people in life. They got to be good people and safe people and truth people, and not judging people and not weird people that have the presence. Weird is a psychological technical term I use a lot to really.
Yeah, no doubt. I just got eliminated from several people's lists, so that's good.
Don't cancel Shad. He's great. Don't do that. All right.
Not that weird.
So people that have presence and they can convey the good, they can give you reality and they can help call you to action. Some people that have that. And you've got to really go to some really safe people and say, look, I've been listening to you and I care about you. I care a relationship, more important to it. And I've always been afraid to say, I've had a really crummy day. And one of my kids is smoking dope and I don't know what to do. Or I just had a bad quarter and I got a sales team that's not working right. Or me and my spouse aren't getting along and I just need some encouragement. And everybody goes, no, that's going to sound like a high need person. I can tell you now, after years of this, 95% of the people that are around you will go, I had no idea. You never tell me. You're just giving to me and you're encouraging me. You never ask me this. I feel privileged. I feel privileged that you're asking me to be on your team. And then you say, oh, here's what I need. Today, I don't need advice. Today, it's just, I want you to say, you get it, that I've had a sucky day. And they go, hey, I've had one too. And all of a sudden things can happen. So you got to practice it for yourself. But let's say you've done all that. And now it's kind of, you've got a team to lead. You've got a sales team, executive team, a board, foundation, whatever. And you got to lead those. The best way you can do this is to, number one, when you're having a task meeting with them, maybe you got a 45 development meeting, or maybe you got a team meeting. Start off with relationship. Before you get to quotas and strategy and execution, you'll get to those things. But if you want to get them knowing there's more to this leader that I'm with, this man or this woman, there's more to them than them being a taskmaster, say, how are you doing? How's life? And then, they'll say, well, it's okay. Then you say, well, any struggles? Now, if you've been a real taskmaster, they'll say, no, we have no struggles, dear leader. Please tell us next time. That means you're a bad leader and you got to change. But if they say, yeah, I've got some problems here, then the first thing you do when they say they've got problems, rather than fix them like this mom did, just say, tell me more about it. How did it feel? It sounds overwhelming. This is hard. I felt this way. And they'll go, first thing they'll do is, did the aliens abduct my leader and give them a new brain in that body? Who is this person? But if you really mean it and you just say, tell me more about that's hard to do. Now, you can't take a 45 minutes. If you in a 45-minute meeting, right. You can't do just a tuning but you can do it for 3 or 4 meetings. Shad, I got a story about that. Can I tell you about that?
Yeah, please do. And I was going to say, we call it being human first. So how can you be human first before?
Being human. Okay, so I'm working with a tech firm in Silicon Valley. And I love the CEO, but he wasn't a good listener. But great in strategy, great in execution. I love the guy. And so he says, come on in. It's Monday. I flew in on Sunday. He said, come in and come around my team. Because we do the kind of Monday morning check in on everybody, on your key players. Everybody does that. So I shadow him and walk with him. And he goes to the first person. I think she was the CFO. He says, how was your weekend? She goes, it was all right. He goes, great. Good to hear. And then, even though I could tell she was depressed, but he's like, goes to the next guy. I think it was a CMO. How was your weekend? He goes, that's all right. Go, good to hear. And I'm thinking, he's just checking the boxes. So we get back and he says, how'd I do? Because I said, I think you've got listening problems. He goes, how'd you do? I said, I'm sorry. I thought you had listening problems. You're the worst listener maybe I've ever met. And we were really good friends. And so he got, we had this little tit-a-tat. I said, I think there's some skills you need to learn, because he thought he was a great listener because he checked the box. I said, when I fly in next month, kind of let me do it with you, because I knew the company very well. We're all friends. I fly in and we go in the CFO in her office and said, how's it going? How's the week? And she goes, all right. And I said, all right, doesn't sound all right. She goes, no. It's seriously, it's fine. I'll be fine. I said, nah, we're kind of here to see how it's going. She goes, well, I screwed up on the green account. I cost us $200,000 last month, and I'm beating the crap out of myself, and I'm really upset. We thought, thank you for telling us. We took her in the CEO's office. We had a 7-minute coaching talk about what can we do differently? What are the resources? How can we reframe her? Put her back in, and she was fine. Went to the next guy's office. How are you doing? All right. That doesn't sound all right. What do you mean? No, it's fine. No, really? Well, our 6-year-old daughter's sick, and the doctors are all kind of confused and kind of scratching their heads about what's wrong. And my wife and I are freaked out because we don't know, and we love our daughter. And so I'm just not very present here. I'm not very emotionally present. I wish I could be more engaged, but I'm not. We went, we totally get that. Come in the CEO's office, talked about insurance, time off, money, all those things, put him back. We go back to the CEO's office, and he goes, I get it. I'm the worst leader in history. No, not the worst listener in history, which meant, and he really wasn't that bad, but it changed. So that's what you have to do as a leader. Before you get to quadrants 2, 3, and 4, encourage, give wisdom, and call to action, you listen right. And it only takes 2 or 3 minutes, and they go, you're in the well with me. Now I'm ready to go to work. It's that simple.
Yeah, I feel like, and you make this point, I think, in the book, and my experience in trying to practice this personally and in groups is that presence seems to be, the quadrant 1 seems to be what we are the weakest at. It seems to be what we receive the least of. It seems to be what we ask the least for. And so it just seems like we are,
Shad.
Yeah, we're very malnourished. Say more about that.
Well, think about what leadership training is. It's about taking the hill. I got a lot of military buddies, and they always talk about taking the hill, and so it's about motion, and it's about movement. We all get our adrenaline glands going when we're seeing, a great quarter, or, a breakthrough or transformations. And we love that. It's about energy, and energy, we all love energy. The problem is presence says, shut up and listen, because you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and the ratio is significant why you would have that. And if you want your people to take the hill, you're going to have to slow it down and be with them and their challenges, and not just tell them, well, suck it up. Now, there are times you tell them, suck it up. When you say, somebody comes in and says, well, I've got a hangnail. I don't know if I can work today. Well, no. You don't get in the well with it. You just say, yeah, sorry about that. Go do your job. But people have struggles like the ones I mentioned. You're going to have, and it's counterintuitive, Shad. It's not it's a learned skill. You just can't jump into it. But once you do it, I'm telling you, once you do it a few times and people come up, and I've had this happen so many times, people come up a couple of days later and say, I can't tell you what that meant to me. I feel energized. I feel like you get it. I feel like I love this company and I love you. And I walk over hot coals for you. You think that's worth learning a new skill to hear that?
Yeah, and I think so obviously in our groups, people, my experience is we're biting our tongues to jump to quadrant 4, to solve the problem, to fix the issue, to move the ball ahead. And so people are just really fighting to hold back the reins to try to offer some presence. But it does.
By the way, most of those people, a lot of those are my clients. They are people who have not received quadrant 1.
Yes.
They've not sat down and said, I'm really struggling and challenged. I need you to listen and be a friend to me. They don't do that. So how can they give the experience?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's definitely my experience as well. When we've been valued for doing and not as valued for being, it's really hard to imagine that there's any value in that practice at all. And so
the only value is what all the research says, what all the neuropsych research says, what all the leadership research says, what Gallup says. Besides that, there's nothing to it.
Right. So we can fight against that till we're blue in the face, or and then we burn out. Right. So again, relationally speaking, as we're trying to apply this, and a lot of the people that we're leading don't have this tool. They don't know how to call what they're asking for or what they're needed. They don't know what to call it. They don't know how to name it. They don't know how to ask for it. Can you talk a little bit about what that interpersonally looks like when you're trying to meet unspoken needs? Somebody's not coming to you. They're not coming and saying, I could really use some attunement and validation right now.
What
could you
planet
offer
do you
that?
live on?
Right. So how do you practice that awareness? And I know, and I think everything you've said too has been, I've got to experience it. I've got to experience it and return thanks when I get it is another big practice, I think, of like saying, man, I really appreciate you meeting me in that need. But how do you offer that to people that aren't looking for it?
The best way I know how to do it, and this is what I do with all my clients and all their companies, is I get the download. It's a structured way that we have this. And you just go online. I think it's either relationalnutrients.com or drtownsend.com relational nutrients. Anyway, it's just on there. And you download it and you have like a 15-minute training with your people, maybe 30 minutes. And you go, these are important for us. Execution's important, vision and mission important, strategy is important. But we're going to let this happen because we want to be the highest optimized group we can have. So let me walk through this. And it's all kind of like, we've already defined them. Like, what does acceptance mean? I mean, I connect without judgment. And then what is attunement? Respond to another experience and get on the well. All the way to quadrant 4, recommend an action step, provide a framework. So you just take them through it in a very short training. The practical step is you take 30 minutes, I'd say 30, out of your normal training during your week and say, we got to go over this. And then you practice it. And if somebody that's good at it says, I know how to do this. And we found that role playing is very, very helpful. I was working with they're about a $12 billion company. And I had their leaders role playing this with each other because the top people weren't good at this. And so I'd say, okay, Susie, you pretend like you're really struggling. And because you lost $1 million in the last quarter, you're beating yourself up. And Sam, CEO, you attuned to her. So Susie goes, okay, I'll pretend like I lost me. Hey, I'm just struggling, boss, and I lost almost $1 million. And then Sam went, well, why'd you do that? And I said, okay, that's not really attuning. And he goes, okay, I'll do it right. I said, okay, all right, do it right. So Sam goes, he says, well, here's what you ought to do next time. I said, well, that's not really attuning. And so then I said to somebody else who I thought had pretty good emotional intelligence besides Sam, I said, Kevin, can you say what you think Sam's just saying? Kevin turned to Susie and said, I'm so sorry. I know how it feels to beat myself up. Tell me more about that. And she goes, wow, that felt like I was drinking from a cool water fountain. And Sam went, is that what it is? I said, yeah. So you have fun with it. You bring it down, you role play it, and then you find out the ones that are already good at it anyway, because there's always some people in your team that are better listeners and they feel happy to help. And the ones that are all task will go, okay, I want to get it and I'm motivated. And it works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The idea of asking, you have a need, ask for need. The idea of asking for a need to be met. And I've also seen it where people demand for needs to be met.
Yes.
So there's like this, instead of asking to receive, it's more like demanding to take. How do you, and maybe some of us on this, maybe some of us on this call, because I think when I get overextended as a leader or just as a human being, and I'm not receiving and I'm not getting these nutrients that I can grow resentful and, self-pity.
Or just empty.
Just empty. Yeah. How do you practice receiving this and versus the combat against becoming demanding and the entitlement or sense that the world, because my experience is a lot of these are going to go unmet, right? Like it's not any one person's job to meet all these needs, and I'm going to be navigating life, and some of these needs are going to go met, and some of them aren't.
If it's just one person, you've got a dependency problem. It's got to be
right.
2, 3, 4, 5 people. I'm going to clarify, make sure I understand the question, Shad. Is it, how can I ask or how can I help them ask? Because there are 2 different answers.
Sure. Probably both. You can speak to both. But making certain that I'm not having this expectancy as I in relationship that other people are going to come rescue me and meet my needs, me demanding that the world meets me in these needs.
Yeah. This is where we found out, and this is the neuroscience again, the number one thing to do so that you don't come out as this entitled, demanding person, like, why aren't they doing this, is a word called vulnerability. Vulnerability unlocks doors. And I'll give an example. All right, Shad. I want you to say, John, I hear you want something from me. And I'm going to give you the entitled request, and I'm going to give you the vulnerable request. Well, I'm in your office and you say, I understand you want something from me.
John, I understand you want something from me.
Yeah, what it is why haven't you called me? You're supposed to call me 3 times a day. If you were really a leader, you'd call me 3 times a day, ask how I'm doing. You never ask about my self-image. You never ask about my kids. My dog has not heard from you. What is the deal? I have these needs. Now, did you just feel like a well of love for me when I said that, Shad?
I felt like this is going to go really well.
Right. Okay.
It'll be a great meeting.
Now let's go into the entitled demanding route. The emptiness is the same in both. My tank's empty, but I'm coming at it from an entitled demanding route. Now let's go to the vulnerable route. So ask me the question.
John, I understand you need something from me.
Yeah, thanks for making the time. I know you're busy. We're all running around with our hair on fire, and I won't take up much of your time. But I am really, really bugged about how some things in my sphere, I'm in marketing, aren't working well. I don't think I'm doing a great job. And so I do want some advice from you, but I got to tell you, I am beating myself up, and I guess I don't believe myself anymore. And it'd be nice to kind of get sort of a reality check from you if you think that's not true. Now, what do you feel like doing with me?
Yeah, just being present with you. I'm really sad to hear that. I'm really sad to hear that you're experiencing that. And I've definitely had my own bouts with similar things. So thanks for sharing that with me.
Good. Then we go to problem solving. That's it. So vulnerability is the differential delta there.
I love that. Yeah, and we vulnerability too. Love to expound on that momentarily. It's woundable, right? To be woundable. So you're bringing your humanity to bear, and it's a risk. It's a huge risk because I could use that against you and say, "Quit being such a pansy. Get thicker skin and don't come back until you have a real problem," which we've probably bumped into some versions of that in our lives. Or if it's a safe, trustworthy person, then you might get a more caring response.
And on a practical level, if you do it the right way, you solve a lot of what Gallup calls the engagement revolving door problem. People want to make money and people want a good job, but think about the probability it'll stay if they got somebody who'll respond the second way instead of the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have one question I want to get to. Carrie Folk was asking about, and you kind of touched on this earlier, but practical tips or strategies for dealing with a strong internal and discouraging judge.
Well, here's the issue. What's his name again? Carrie? Is it Carrie? I think you're muted.
Yeah, Carrie. That's right.
Yeah. Hey, Carrie. It's a great question. The reason is because that strong internal judge is a double-edged sword. It kind of helped you get where you got in accomplishment, but it just beats the crap out of you at the same time. So the best thing that you can do when you have you're disqualified, you're letting everybody down, what a loser you are, imposter syndrome, the judge is just beating you up, is a couple of things. Is one, you go to the safest person in your life. Your spouse is one, but don't put it all on your spouse because they get tired. Find somebody else too and say, I don't know. I was jaywalking yesterday and I told myself that I must be Hitler. I mean, who knows what. And I just think I'm just, useless. And then tell me what you think. And then that person says, no, you messed up. You shouldn't have jaywalked. That was a minor thing, but I think you got so much else going for you and I trust you and I don't see you that way. Now what you've done is the judge is a voice in your head that's trying to kind of punish you, but you take this other person and you've got a competing voice, and that competing voice is warmer. Yeah, you screwed up, but you're an okay person. And it begins to win over the judge. That's the first thing to do, is get other voices in your head. And the second thing to do is to provide grace for other people the way you'd like to receive it, because then you live more in that world. We all need a judge, because if we didn't, we'd all be like, robbing banks and all that. So we need a nice judge, though. We need a nice judge that won't thrash us. And those are the two ways to get that mean judge to be a nice judge.
Thanks for asking that on my behalf, Carrie. We got another question. How do you ask for your needs to be met from people that don't know or understand the nutrients?
Well, there's this download, you see. And there's this book. Yeah, it's all that. It's like saying, it's like saying, hey, the way I introduce it is, I ask about the symptoms: creativity, energy, mood, focus. How's it going? Now, there's some people in denial, so everything's perfect. I am perfect. We all are perfect. Everything is fine. I don't spend a lot of time with them, honestly. I'm too busy. But most of them will say, yeah, this is kind of a problem. And you say, I've had the same stuff and I wanted more because I wanted to optimize as a leader. Hey, let me tell you what we're doing. The thing about it is all business people love to share their nuggets of things that they read from Patrick Lencioni and from Ken Blanchard and from Donald Miller and just say, hey, I got a new concept. It's kind of a nugget that's helping me. And people go, oh, what is it? Here's how I'm optimized. And you just lead into it. Very easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really good. Yeah, I think and if there are any more questions, we got a few more minutes left. So get those in real quickly if you've got them. But I think what I have seen or am learning to observe, there's a biblical passage that says it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I feel like that has been translated somehow into saying, if you need to receive, you're a loser. Like giving is great. Receiving makes you weak. And I see us working and wasting a lot of energy to try to get these needs met in other ways without having to just come through the front door and say, yes. So I think the power of practicing this, and you've outlined it beautifully, of finding those safe, trustworthy, honest people.
And you don't say it in a weird way. You don't say something like, I have learned these 14 techniques. You just say something like, I'm not real with everybody. Right. I'm just not. I want to keep a strong face for him. And I get it. And it's kind of embarrassing for me to be real, but I think I need to at my age and stage. And it's okay to be real with you. 95% of people say, well, yeah, I'm real with you. Go for it. So it's not strange. It's like, can I be authentic? And they'll go, I love that. They'll feel energized.
Mm-hmm. So personal question for you as we wrap up, of all these nutrients, which one is do you feel the most vulnerable asking for, or do you feel like you are the most uncomfortable with?
Oh, who wrote this thing? This is weird. I think probably the containment in quadrant one, fourth one in, allowing the other to vent while staying warm. I like to edit with people and say, well, I have a problem and here's the strategy. And then just to say, here's what the heck I'm feeling, and just kind of throw it out. And I think, gosh, I'm just vomiting on that person. But people will tell me when I do that, you vented, and thank you for venting, because you don't vent to a lot of people. I'm glad that I know that part of you. So it's always good, and I'm getting better at it. But that has been a problem.
And what the containment is a good one from my perspective too, with when I'm in relationship with somebody. And if in my own marriage, if my wife says, hey, can you just hold this with me? It's freeing to me to know that she's not expecting me to do anything but just offer that. And I use the expression, like, I'm going to go fly a kite. Can you hold the string? Like I just need somebody to hold the string. Like it up there.
Babe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
by
good.
the way, you can't go as deep at work as you can in family and personal relationships, but you can get a lot done at work too. Right.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, man, it has been, and I knew this would go fast, and I'm sure we could talk about each one of these in depth, but I'm sure if you've not gotten the book, go get the book, People Fuel, or listen to it. And John can read it to you personally, which is also, sometimes I like to listen to it and read it at the same time and feel like we're really good friends. So anyway, hope you all get a chance to get your hands on that book and some of their other work. But thanks so much for being with us, Dr. Townsend. Really good.
Shad, can I mention the Townsend Institute for just a brief second?
Yeah, sure.
If you like this kind of approach of high task, high function, and high relationship, we can get you a credential at the Townsend Institute of Leadership and Counseling. It's a fully fledged grad school. We've got all the accreditation. It's really a grad school, and you can get a credential. Oh, Karen, you're a TI student. Hi, Karen. Well, welcome. Glad you're in the family. We have hundreds and hundreds of students. It's all online. And you can get a credential or a master's in organizational leadership for yourself, or a credential or a master's in coaching or consulting, or one in counseling. And our students are out. We've been around 7 years now. Our students are getting great jobs, whether they're 23 or 73, and they're learning these materials. So just go to drtownsend.com or Townsend Institute online, check us out. But we're doing a lot of leadership graduates who have this model in mind: high task and high people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're becoming a household name here in Memphis because we've got a lot of your graduates in and around the community. And so thank you for the impact and influence you're having close to home. Really appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. Great to be with you, Dr. Townsend. Enjoy the rest of your day in sunny California.
Thank you. Good to see you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.